Trans people and our activists and allies have been talking about basically the intention, as far as we can see it, to gradually remove rights and access to such an extent that you effectively make there be no more trans people, is the goal. There will be these reasonable concerns about how we treat children, and certain vulnerable minority groups, should be protected from this predatory big pharma. And yeah, we've been calling it for a while, and people have been saying that we are catastrophizing or that we're using a slippery slope argument. And we're seeing more and more proof, such as we're going to observe today, that Republicans do want to ban trans care for everyone. Like, they want to ban all trans related care, which effectively means they want to make it to where you can't be trans in like the sense of being able to actually transition medically. It's effectively making it to where the only way to be trans is to just be a very, very visible crossdresser who can very easily be policed. So Ohio and Michigan Republicans have basically publicly were talking about this, but I don't think they intended for it to stay public. They were on a Twitter space, these little private calls that you can do on Twitter, and this is like 24 minutes long, so we're not going to look at the whole thing. We are going to read basically some of Aaron's coverage of this. So we have audio from a Twitter space featuring legislators from Ohio and Michigan. This thing was posted publicly automatically after the event was held. They've revealed that the, quote, end game of anti-trans legislation has been to ban trans care for, quote, everyone. It included Representative Gary Click from Ohio, who sponsored the state's recent controversial gender-affirming care ban, which did end up passing with a majority-proof veto override. Throughout the space, the legislators seem to freely discuss their plans and strategies for targeting transgender care. Towards the end of the space, the conversation shifts to a plan for the, quote, end game, where Republican legislators and anti-trans activist Prisha Mosley discuss various plans aimed at, quote, banning this for everyone, referring to gender-affirming care. The space was a free-form discussion as well as a strategy plan. The beginning of the space focused more on trans care for youth. 49 minutes into the discussion, attention turned to transgender adults. Representative Shriver asked, in terms of endgame, why are we allowing these practices for anyone? If we're going to stop this for anyone under 18, why not apply it for anyone over 18? It's harmful across the board, and that's something we need to take into consideration in terms of endgame. Representative Click then responded, that's a very smart thought there. I think what we know legislatively is we have to take small bites, so they know and have known that they're going to chip away at rights in order to take down the whole thing. It's exactly the same strategy that they were doing with abortion. Like, yeah, I called it literally more than a year ago that they're going to be coming after trans adults next. It's not a slippery slope argument if we know that they're stating this intention and we know that they're following through on this with other things. That they have to, we have to say, oh, well, no third trimester abortions, obviously, blah, blah, blah. And then once you agree to that, they have their foot in the door, and then they can start chipping away even more and more and more, instead of you having an unrestricted right to access. So they'll say, oh, obviously children below a certain age shouldn't be doing this. And then you go, okay, well, no children below a certain age are even getting medical care because you can't start puberty blockers until you're in puberty. Like, you can't medically take it before you're in puberty, or at least it wouldn't make sense to. Like, not until you get to the Turner's phase 2 or whatever of puberty. Like, you have to be in it. So, yeah, and then they'll gradually go, oh, well, anyone under the age of 18, oh, well, except that, your brain's not really done developing until age 25. And then they do things like just end all Medicaid coverage of gender-affirming care. So anyone who is poor and on Medicaid doesn't have covered services anymore. Hey, real quick, hit the like button if you're enjoying the content. Hit the subscribe button as well and turn on all notifications. And also take a moment to check out the links in the description for merchandise and Patreon, where you can find exclusive free content. Yeah, give them an inch, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. They're just going to take, Tanner. Thank you, Tanner, level 2, not Turner. It's not hard to imagine if transition had no negative side effects, what difference it would make to these people, i.e. none. Yeah, even if there were no negative side effects, because the side effects the negative side effects are negligible compared to the benefits. Like, a little bit of bone density loss. Okay, well, we give intersex kids bone density loss by removing their perfectly healthy gonads and then not really putting them on adequate hormone care afterwards. So I know someone who had osteoporosis when they were 20 years old because of invasive, unnecessary and coercive procedures, including removing their healthy internal testicles. So, yay. They can't make being trans illegal directly, yeah, Anansi points out, but they can make the conditions tough as hell to be trans, aka genocidal tactics. Like, trying to restrict people's ability to be in public or their ability to access care. You can't make it directly illegal. You might not even be able to make trans care directly illegal, but what you can do is threaten to revoke funding from any hospital that provides it. So that includes any hospital that wants to work with Medicaid can't accept Medicaid anymore if like federal funding or like state funding is not being given to them. You know, they can find other ways of controlling this even without making it criminally punitive. Yeah, Democrats are just gonna go, stop hate, lol, no hate, go back to lunch. I don't know. I'd like to hope that they'll do something smarter, but like this news doesn't break out of our niche communities is the problem. I'm gonna post this on my YouTube channel and it's gonna get maybe about 1,400 views, and all of those are probably gonna be people who are like already subscribed to me. So I don't know how to make this go into a broader audience. Like, how do you get mainstream Democrats to understand that there is a problem here? Okay, so they're talking about attacking Planned Parenthood over this as well as the abortion thing. So Representative Click says, the other thing is Planned Parenthoods. They pass out hormones like candy. Like he's put a stop to that. That's one of the places a lot of adults go. There's also Euphoria and Plume. Like, people seek informed consent care because the gatekeeping prevents them. Like, if you have a situation like in many European countries where you are forced to pretend to be binary, like if you're non-binary, they will not give you medical care unless you claim like you are a trans man or a trans woman. So of course, people who don't who can't afford the therapy required or who don't fit all of the boxes that these cis people have put together, by the way, like you as a trans person don't tick enough of these boxes. So yeah, of course you're gonna go to someone who's like not gonna require you to do 6 months of therapy, who's just gonna give you the goddamn medicine that you need. Yeah, no kidding, Anansi. Get a skill, make yourself useful in groups. Was this written before the veto override? I think this was the veto override. This was before that. So Representative Shriver continues by arguing that adults consenting to gender-affirming care should not be allowed, going as far as to compare it to consent for, quote, self-mutilation and, quote, euthanasia. He then repeated, we have to be looking at the end game simultaneously, maybe even using that to move the window to say that this isn't just wrong 0 to 18, it's wrong for everyone and we shouldn't be allowing that to happen. Representative Click confirmed the plan, stating, we have to take it one bite at a time, do it incrementally. Conversation continues with Prisha Mosley, who is an anti-trans detransitioner, saying, I did want to say that I've kind of been waiting for a state or a representative or anyone to be brave enough to address that you cannot consent to a lie. Most of these doctors are straight up lying about the effects and saying it'll magically cure every bad feeling you've ever had and that you can magically change sex. You sound like a very reasonable person, like, who genuinely knows what's going on in the world. Totally not, like, one of the biggest idiots I've ever heard speak, but whatever. Yes, exactly. The entire medical and scientific consensus are all lying. I don't know how anyone can take it seriously for someone to claim most of these doctors, okay, where's the evidence for, quote, most, are straight up lying about the effects. Like, if anything, like, the things that the doctor is telling you is, like, you need to make sure you understand that this could sterilize you, and then, like, the effects differ from person to person. Like, the idea that it'll magically cure every bad feeling you've ever had, okay, that's not what anyone's claiming. Just, like, if you have dysphoria, that will cause other issues, and if you solve that issue, then it'll be good. Wow, amazing. Or at least give you a better baseline with which to address your other problems. And, like, yeah, you cannot consent to the lie that you can change sex, I think ultimately is what she is saying here. And yeah, Prisha, I assume that's she, her pronouns. I have no idea. Oh, here's great. This is amazing. At the end of the conversation, Representative Shriver states that they should, quote, ban this for all people, to which Representative Paquette responds, we'll chat offline about all this good stuff. What? Yeah, like they know that they shouldn't be talking about this publicly, really. Like, we'll chat offline about our plans to restrict the rights of adults. Them, initially, if you're an adult, I don't care what you do, you can choose to transition. Also them, you can't transition no matter what age. Cope, liberals! Like, dude, increasingly, yeah, more and more attacks towards trans adults. Medical care restrictions on incarcerated individuals, bathroom bans. Yeah, just many, many, many more bills. It is conspiratorial, irrational thinking on par with flat Earth. If you have a belief that there is a massive worldwide conspiracy and all of the scientists and all of the doctors are lying, you should not be taken seriously as a person, never mind given any power. I mean, again, I don't think that it's conspiratorial and irrational because I don't think they genuinely believe in some kind of conspiracy. Like, I think that it just boils down to they think that we're degenerate and disgusting and unnatural, and they will make up anything that they need to in order to justify restricting access for us. A lot of the problem is just people only listen to people that are actually lying to them and refuse to listen to professionals or, you know, actual trans people. Yeah, it's crazy to me that you could be discussing a group of people and at no point, it's like there are plenty of lady doctors who can inform you on reproductive care, but we don't really ask them. It's always these panels of old white men making rules about people who they have nothing to do with. Yeah, it's pretty far removed from what would be reasonable. Just want to be clear that this is the most spelled out that this strategy has been. Basically, like, these elected representatives from their own mouths planning the banning of care for trans adults. And to be clear, it's not banning all gender-affirming care and procedures. Like, cis women will still be able to get boob jobs, and cis men are still going to be able to get prescriptions for their low-dose testosterone. But yeah, so this is going to crack down specifically on trans adults, which is one of the ways in which it gets knocked down. 14th Amendment, equal protection under the law, blah, blah, blah. That's one of the ways that it can get knocked down. But yeah, we'll see how that goes in the courts. Gary Click has ties to the Heritage Foundation and the Center for Christian Virtue, which are playing a role in the development and authorship of anti-trans legislation. So we have more complete quotes down here. Oh, we already regulate what minors can do. They cannot sign contracts, buy cigarettes, consume alcohol. They can't get a tattoo without their parents. We already have rules concerning that. For minors, the prefrontal cortex is not developed. So, like, you just said without their parents. So yes, parents should be able to consent to medical procedures as well. Like, dude, he does say, like, you know, I think that there's something to be said for adults being able to weigh the pros and the cons. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to read all this. Yeah, this is something that's harmful for all people, whether you're 18, 19, 20, or older. I certainly don't disagree with the harm that this does for anybody. Y'all don't know shit about anything. Get out of my business. Just get out of my business. That's all I want. Just go away. Stop bothering me. Let me do my medical care stuff. Like, Jesus. It's crazy to me how much people are trying to regulate how people access care. It's not like they're, regulating, oh, this individual thing is like, oh, this was found to be poisonous. Therefore, we have to, like, change the manufacturing process on this or something. It's like, we've just decided that the entire kind of procedure that you want, even though it's been proven to be helpful over and over and over again. I saw a D-trans person on Twitter recently who was saying, you know, for most other types of surgeries, the regret rate is much higher. Like, it's at least 14% or 23% for this other procedure. And you're sitting here telling me that the procedure regret rate for trans people is only 2%? Be real. That's a fake number. Certainly a whole bunch of people are just unwilling to talk about their regret. It's like, you genuinely just can't face the fact that the statistics overwhelmingly say trans people are satisfied even if they don't get exactly the results that they want. There are people who have had a complete failure of their procedure. Like, if you're getting a penis installed, for example, they take a skin graft from another part of your body, and so it's a complete and total graft situation, and sometimes it just fails and dies, and then, like, you have to do the whole process over again. And even people who have complete failure, or very serious infections, or very serious complications, or big changes that they have to deal with, like unexpected things during their recovery, overwhelmingly, every trans person I've spoken to who's had one of these procedures is like, it's amazing and I'm so glad. Even if they're like, I literally might have to have an entire new procedure. I know someone who had a vaginoplasty, But for some reason, the way that she healed, she did not have very much depth in her vaginal canal. So she's like, I might have to go back and literally do an entire new vaginoplasty with a different type of procedure, peritoneal pull through, for those of you who are curious. And she's like, yeah, but I still wouldn't change anything. Like, obviously, I wish that I had healed better, but I'm so glad that I have this change. And it's like, yeah, you genuinely just are going to ignore any statistics that don't agree with you. Like, oh, whatever, that can't be real. Like, no, it's like impossible for you to fathom that this is just like one of the most effective forms of treatment for anything that we have at all. Like, some kinds of cancer treatment have as much of a satisfaction rate and efficacy rate, you know? But like, frankly, plenty of cancer treatments do have people going, I regretted that and it sucked. I have a trans mask friend who introduced me to trans people who needed up to 4 revisions, and in the end had to stop getting new procedures done in the end. So now has like basically a penis that can't do a lot of the functions that we expect it to do, but however enjoys life regardless and loves being a man. Yeah, there are people who initially their primary goal was to be able to pee standing up, and maybe they, in the process of their urethra healing, they were able to pee standing up a couple times, but it ultimately failed. They're still grateful that they even had a couple months of being able to do it. Yeah, it's just literally anything that they can think of to oppose it. They will come up with any excuse. Because it's, again, an ontological belief about spiritual gender. You can't magically change sex, except that you can, and it is magic. And they just have to pretend like it's not one of the most incredible and revolutionary things we've ever discovered in order to maintain their ideology. Again, we've known for a while that they're going to be heading this direction with things. We've known, like, we didn't need them to explicitly say it in order to know that this was their intention. But now they have explicitly said it. So I expect people to start taking it seriously, because I'm going to be able to point back to this. Like, nope, actually, they explicitly said, Representative Gary Click, Representative Shriver, Representative Paquette, they explicitly said, we want to take away transition from adults. Can we add a long, frustrated scream onto that segment? My throat already hurts. My throat hurts. I can't scream. I'll put it in post. Even if we were at the point of literally giving you a pill that completely changes your chromosomes and phenotype accordingly, these same bills and talks would exist. Right. Yeah, unfortunately, Mama, I agree with you. I think literally nothing will come of this. Not one single person in our government cares. We have essentially been abandoned. If you haven't hit the like button, we are kind of winding down, but you should consider hitting the like button. Consider dropping me a $5 dono if you want to. It's my job to cover news and to face this hellscape with you in a chill, relaxed environment. Hi, thank you so much to all of my patrons, especially Tiago Nascimento, Mersh Rolvog, Amanda B., Michelle Frateroli, Michelle Winter, Wellington Marcus, Danielle McDonald, DZXN, Suzanne Maynard, Spooky Heather Sylvia, Jamie Jam, Pasnell Infinity, Nova, Elizabeth Bartell, Sojo, Sarah A., Athiet, Kevin Young, Celeste, Desi Quiche, Liam Hodgson, Mr. Atheist, and Ella V. Nobody.